Every country in the world is in debt. The United States carries more than $45 trillion, dollars, the highest figure in history. The European Union is around $19 trillion. dollars. Japan is near $10 trillion. dollars. Even oil-rich nations like Saudi Arabia or export giants like Germany and China owe enormous amounts. But here lies a paradox. If everyone is in debt, exactly who are they in debt to? This is financial historiography, the place where money, power, and history intersect. And nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Debt is not just a burden, it is the architecture of the modern world. Every war, every crisis, every rise and collapse stands on this invisible skeleton of credits and debits. And if you trace the creditor chain back far enough, you may see something unsettling. The world isn't really indebted to any one entity. It is indebted to itself. But that doesn't mean everyone benefits equally. To understand how today's global debt, now over $345 trillion, dollars, nearly 3 times the size of the world economy, came to exist, we have to go back to the beginning. Long before the first credit card swipe or digital transfer, the idea of national debt was born not on Wall Street, but on the battlefield. In 1694, England was at war with France and running out of gold. The king turned to merchants for help. In exchange for perpetual interest payments secured by future taxes, they financed the state. To manage this new arrangement, the Bank of England was created. It was revolutionary. The state could now spend money it did not yet have. In return, lenders received something invaluable, a promise from the government, a promise that could be bought and sold. This was the birth of the government bond, the seed of the modern financial system. France copied it. The Netherlands improved it. The newly formed United States adopted it to finance its revolution and westward expansion. National debt became not a sign of failure, but of credibility. The ability to borrow became the ability to build. Once, empires conquered land to mine gold. Now they fought wars to mine interest. The battlefield had become the balance sheet. Fast forward 3 centuries. Debt has become the world's dominant export. America owes $40 trillion. Japan owes more than $12 trillion. And global borrowing grows by about $4 trillion every 100 days. Every country owes. Every bank lends. Every citizen, through taxes, savings, and pensions, is both debtor and creditor. So who holds the other end of this rope? Let's start with America, because its debt is not just national, it is global. Roughly half of its $40 trillion debt is publicly held, meaning owned not by the government, but by investors. About 2/3 of those investors are Americans: banks, pension funds, insurance companies, and the Federal Reserve itself. The remaining 1/3, around $13 trillion, is held abroad. The biggest holder is Japan, with about $4 trillion, followed by China, with around $750 billion. Then come the UK, Luxembourg, and Belgium. So when people say the US is in debt to China, it's true, but only for about 2% of the total. Most of America's debt is held by Americans. The Treasury issues it. Banks and funds buy it. The Federal Reserve often buys those bonds back, creating new dollars in the process. Americans pay taxes. Those taxes pay interest. That interest flows into Americans' retirement accounts. It is a mirror loop. The debt is real, but the creditor is mostly a reflection of the same system. And this loop is not unique to America. Japan lends to the US by buying treasuries. The US lends to Europe through the IMF. Europe lends to developing nations through the World Bank. Developing nations lend back to the West by parking foreign reserves in its bonds. It is like a global game of hot potato, except the potato is made of promises. Each country holds another country's debt. Each promise is secured by another promise, as though everyone at a poker table is playing with chips borrowed from the next player. The only rule that keeps the game going is that nobody stands up. But there is a fourth layer, the most powerful one: the markets themselves. Behind every government bond is a network of institutions managing tens of trillions of dollars: hedge funds, pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, and central banks. They are the true referees of the credit system. They decide which countries can borrow cheaply and which must pay painfully high rates to survive. When they lose confidence, currencies collapse, governments fall, and economies can be redesigned overnight. Democracy chooses who governs. Markets choose who survives. And the highest priest of this order is the central bank. Central banks do not just manage debt, they create it. When the Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank buys government bonds, it creates money in exchange. One balance sheet's debt becomes another's asset. Every currency unit in circulation represents a unit of